Look, creating a beautiful website in terms of UI and UX and also a responsive website is not always that easy. And I understand many people just say, hey, whatever, I will build an ugly website and leave it like that. But today this will change, because in this video we will learn how to create a beautiful UI UX website which is also responsive. We'll use Tailwind CSS and Next.js 14 to create this website. I will share with you a Figma file with A desktop design and B, a mobile design. And then we will take this Figma design file and convert it to a working production grade application. We will start with Tailwind CSS and first of all create a mobile functioning web application, and as the video will progress we will try and convert our application to a desktop size. So again, in this video we will take a Figma file, convert it to a working grade application, deploy to Vercel and to its global CDN, and then at the end we'll have a beautiful website and a very fast website. So now I think it's time to actually get started, so let's go. So to get started, I will cd into my desktop directory, I will cd into my YouTube directory, and I will run npx create-next-app at latest to install the latest package of Next.js. The CLI will now ask me for a name. I will name it UI UX website. Then we'll use TypeScript, we'll use ESLint, we will of course use Tailwind, we won't use the source directory, we will use the app router, and we won't customize the default import alias. Now the CLI will take a bit to install everything, and once that's done, I will come back. So the CLI has now finally installed Next.js, as you see, and I will now go to Visual Studio Code and open the project. And as you see, I already opened the project, and if you want to do the same, go on top right here, click on File and click on Open Folder. But now on the right side in our Explorer, as you see, we now have a default template that Next.js ships with. So if we, for example, open the app folder and the page.tsx, this is the default index page. So let's start our dev server to actually see our website. To do that, let's open the terminal with either Command J or on top terminal and new terminal. And then inside of here, let's do npm run dev to start our dev server. Now our dev server will open on localhost 3000, so let me open that in Chrome. So now our dev server is running, and as you see, this is now our default index page, as already said. Now there's currently one thing, as you see, that's dark mode. I don't really want that, since our actual website will be white mode or light mode. As you see right here, we'll use light mode. So what I'll do right now is actually go right here in the globals.css file. If I close my terminal, you see some default styles again installed with the CLI. I don't need that, so let me actually just delete it. And all I will need is these @Tailwind classes to make Tailwind work. So if I now save that and go back, you now see we don't have dark mode anymore, but light mode, and this now looks better. Now still, this index page is quite ugly, and at the end of the day, that's also not what we want to create. We want to create a beautiful website, as you see right here, where I have also the Figma file. And again, if you want to see the same Figma file as I do, just head over to my YouTube description and click on the link. But now, what's the first thing we should do? I think we should first of all delete this whole index page, since I don't need that. Let me close the Explorer. Let's delete everything inside of the return statement right here. So everything inside of this main element. And let's just say, I don't know, div, and let's say h1 hello from the index page, just to see if everything works. If I now save it and go back, that's what you see now. You see hello from the index page. So that's nice. And now, since you see that our dev environment is working and Next.js is correctly installed, I think we could actually now start with creating our beautiful website. And now with Tailwind, it's actually quite interesting, since Tailwind is mobile first. So what I mean with that is there are actually two ways to create a website. Either you start with the desktop screen, as you see right here, and then work to mobile, or you work with mobile and then work yourself up to desktop. And since we'll use Tailwind in this project, we will start with actually creating this mobile page, as you see right here, and then later on, step by step, we will try to transform it into a desktop website, as you see right here. So now, again, we'll start right here with this mobile page. And what's the first thing I want to start with? Well, I always start from the top to the bottom. And the first thing I see right now is a navbar. And that's exactly what we'll create now. We will create a navbar. So there's one important thing right here. You see we have assets. So this is the logo, this is just a user button, and this is the menu button. These are SVG images actually, or SVG files. And if you head over to my GitHub, you can actually click the public folder. So let me actually show it to you. So if you click on the GitHub link in my YouTube description, what you can do now is click on the public folder, and then right here, this assets folder has all the files which we'll need for this project. So what I want you to do actually is right here, just click on, where is it, code, and then just download it as a zip, and then you can extract the public files, so all the images which we'll need for this project. So let me actually right now just paste it in my public folder, so the assets folder. So now you see in my public folder this assets folder with again all the images which I installed from my GitHub repo. So this looks very nice, and now we can actually start with the navbar. So how do we start? Well, right now we have right here the index page, and there are actually again two ways how we could do that. Either A, we just write everything in one file, so in this case in this index page, or we can break up each, I guess, section into a separate component. And that's what I will do. So we'll create a navbar component, we'll create a hero component, a features component, a footer component, etc. So let's start with that. So right here inside of our Explorer, let me go inside of the app folder, create a new folder, which I will name components. And now in this components folder, I will create a new file called navbar.tsx. Now this file will house all the code for our navbar, and I just think this is a nicer look. So how do we always start with Next.js? So you have to actually export a component. So what we'll do is now just an export function. Let's just name it navbar, and let me open that. So now I just export a function called navbar, and now we can write inside of here code and then actually just import that in the index page. So now let's actually start with a return statement. So the first element I will use is the nav element, since this is a navbar of course. And now we have to give it actually some styling. So let's head over to GitHub. What do we see right here? We have actually three children, as you see right here. So the logo and these two, I guess, other assets. And now how do we actually create the same style in our HTML as you see it right here? Well, we'll use the flex container actually, so flexbox. So let's give it a class name of flex. Let's do W full, since I want to have 100% of the width. Now, if you see right here, all of the items are in the center. So let's give it an items, which will be center. And what you also see right here is that these two items, I will just say that this is one item and this is one item, that they are both justified to the corner at the end. So justify between. So let's give it a class name of justify between. And also you see we have padding. So if I click on that and click right here on this dev button, so dev mode, I can actually see the padding. So I see on the x-axis, so right and left, we have padding of 20 pixels, and on the top and bottom, so on the y-axis, we have padding of 16 pixels. So that's exactly what I'll add right here, padding on the x horizontal, and we can add a custom value with these array brackets as you see them right here. And let's right here just say 20 pixels. Now let's also add padding for the y-axis, so padding y of 16 pixels. And again, we'll use these custom brackets just to paste the pixel value. And again, why did I choose 16 pixels? That's because you see right here 16 pixels on the y-axis. So this looks quite nice. Now we should actually create the children. So right here our logo and these other two images, and then actually show them. Because if I now head over to my dev environment, first of all, you don't see anything. So let me actually save that right now. Let's go to our page.tsx. Let me delete everything. Let's use these empty brackets. And right here, we can now import our navbar. So if I now save that and go back, you see we have an empty screen. And that's again because we have nothing in our navbar right now. So now to show our assets, I will actually create another div element. Now inside of this div element, I will actually use the image component provided by Next.image. Now this is actually almost the same to the normal image tag as you know it. But there's still a few benefits. Let me actually go to the Next.js docs and show it to you. So right here in the docs you see they tell you what exactly the benefit is of using the image component. And as you see, the image component actually just extends the normal image tag as you know it, and you actually get a few nice benefits like size optimization, visual stability, faster page loads, and asset flexibility. So that's why we'll use the image component. Now inside of this, so let me first of all delete the normal image tag. Inside of here we have to now pass actually two props. So first of all the source and the alt. Now for the alt, we'll just say logo because this will be the logo. And now for the source, we have to pass our logo. So on top, let me actually import our logo. So let's do import logo from public assets, and this will be the logo.svg. I can now just pass it right here, and now you see we don't get any errors anymore. Now we can actually also see how that looks. So let me head over to our dev server. So now you see right here on the left, we have now the logo. But if we head over to Figma again, that's not the only thing we have. Right here we also have the user icon and the menu button. And for that, that's again actually quite simple. What we'll do is go under this div element. So let's do that. Create another div element. Then inside of this div element, I will create another div element. Use the image component again. And let's give it a source and let's give it an alt. For the alt, I will just say user, or let's say user profile actually. And on top, I again have to import the user profile image. So on top, let's do import, let's say just user from public assets and user. And if we are already here, let me also import the menu. So let's do import menu from public assets and menu. So now right here for the source, let me pass our user. So let me spell that correctly. And now I of course also want to show our menu icon. For that, let me go under this div element right here. And then let's again use an image component. And again, we have to pass in source and we have to pass in alt. For the alt, I will just say menu button. And for the source, let's just say menu. So if I now save that and go back, let me go to Chrome. You see, yeah, that does not look how it should be. Now these items are currently aligned vertically. So how do we change it? Well, actually quite simple. We again use flexbox. So right here, this div, which is the parent of this div and this image component, right here, we'll give them class name of flex and gap x of 5. If I now save that, you see this looks now 1000 times better, and that's perfect. Now, if you head over again to the Figma file, you will see on the desktop environment, we actually have right here the nav links, so 4 a total, and right here on the right side, instead of having this menu button, we'll have a text with sign in and also a text right here with open account. So this is almost like a secondary button. So now we actually have to convert this mobile screen, or adapt it actually, to the desktop screen where we see these links. So the first thing I want to do right now actually is, let's actually first of all see how our screen looks on desktop. So if I make a desktop, yeah, that's what you see. It does not look great actually. And what we can do first of all is actually the padding on the left side and on the right side does not look good in my opinion. So what we could do is, for example, add a container which adds a max width. And then, of course, we also could add a bit more of padding on the x-axis. So let me get back to our code. And then right here for our nav element, let me first of all use now a target, which is LG. And with this, I target a minimum width. So right here, if I hover over LG or click on it, I am not quite sure. Let's see. You will see that this LG modifier actually just works when the minimum width is 1000, I think, 20 pixels. So we'll use that right now, LG, and let's do container, and also LG of MX Auto. If I now save that and go back, so now you will see actually nothing has really changed. But if I make the screen smaller right now, so if I just zoom out, you will see now the container works and we have a maximum width, which looks quite nice. But still on the normal screen size, you see the padding is still not big enough for my taste. So what I will do right here is add an LG of padding X 20. If I now save that and go back, this looks already way better in my opinion. Now if I head over to the Figma file again, Right now, if you check our website, we have this menu button on the right side. But in the Figma file, we don't have that. Instead of having this menu button, we have a text with sign in. And that's exactly what I want to add right now. So let's head over to the code again. And now under this image component, I will add actually a span element. And then in the span element, we'll have to add right here for the text sign in, just like that. This should be lowercased. And we of course also have to add a few class names. So let's do class name of first of all hidden, because on a mobile device, again, I don't want to show the sign in text. For the font, let's actually check it out. I can click right here if I am in a dev environment and see how actually everything looks like. So we see that the font family is Inter, that's fine. Font size is 16, that's good. And the font family is normal, and the font weight is 500. So this means that it isn't the normal font weight 400, which is the default, but 500. So what I will do is font medium, and right here you now see we add a font weight of 500, which looks good. Also you see the text color is a bit different, so I can copy this color right here, the hashtag 36 something, and then we can just add in text, and again use our array brackets to add in custom color. So that looks fine. If I would now save it and actually try to see something, you would see we see nothing. Why is that? That's again because we added this hidden modifier, and with that we just say, hey, just don't show this element. But what we'll do now is actually on larger devices, I will show the text. So it's quite simple. We can again use our LG modifier and say, when we have the minimum width of LG, let's show it with block. So if I now save it and go back, you now see this sign in text. Now again, this does not look good. Why? It's vertical, but I want it to be horizontal. So what I can do is again add a flex element. So for this div element, which is the parent element of the image component and span element, I can give it a class name, which will be flex, items, which will be center, and then gap, which will be x of 2. If I now save that and go back, you already see that this looks 1000 times better. Still, we have on the right side this menu button. This shouldn't be there. It should only show on the mobile screen. So what we can do is quite simple. Right here for the image component, which houses our menu button or menu icon, we can add a class name and say, hey, on large devices, just don't show it. So on large devices, let's do hidden. If I now save that and go back, you now see on large devices, we don't see this icon anymore. But if I go on the mobile screen, we still see that. So this works perfectly actually. But still, this is not perfect. What is missing currently? Well, first of all, in Figma you will see we need this open account button, and also we need on the left side these 4 links. So what will we add right now? I think we should actually add the 4 links on the left right here. And for that, what I will first of all create is an array. So inside of this array, I will just store the 4 links. So let's do right here const, nav links, which will be an array with multiple objects. Now the first object will just have a name, and the name will be, let me just copy it right here, features. Let's paste that. The second object will again have a name. Let's copy the name. This will be pricing right here. So let's add it. Then the next object will be name of, let's see. This will be enterprise. I will copy that, paste that. And the last object will again be name. And let me just copy careers right here. So now we have our nav links array with 4 objects, or in that case, 4 link items. Now, how do we actually add them? It's quite simple actually. Right here we have our image component, and what we want to do now is show the nav elements on the right side of the image. So under this image component, I can just use a div element right here. And for now, let's add a hidden element. So let's do class name and hidden, since I don't want to show it on mobile devices. And now inside of this div element, I can actually map over the items. So let's get our nav links. So nav links dot map. Let me get a item and an index, and then let me just return that. Now inside of here, I will just render a p element and then our item. So let's do item dot name. Now you see we get an error. If I hover over p or on our p tag, it tells me missing key prop for element in iterator. Well, this is a React error, and all it tells me is just to add a key prop, so key, and add our index. If I now save that, we don't get any errors anymore. But if I head over to Chrome, you still see nothing. And again, why is that? That's because we are right here currently just hidden. So what I can do is on large devices, so LG, I can do flex. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, you now have links, I guess, which look quite bad. So the first thing is, again, our icon or our logo is stacked vertically with our nav links. So what we can do is right here target the parent element of the image and the nav links. So let's give it a class name of flex and let's do items, which will be center. And then what else does not look good? Well, right here we don't have any padding between the text, and also the text size does not look correct for me. So what we can do right now is, first of all, we have a text color, as you see again. That's this one right here. I will again copy that. Let's give our p tag a class name. This will be text of this custom value which I've just copied. Then the font, what is it? It's font weight 500. So let's right here just do font medium. So font, which will be medium. And I think that's actually all. Let me again go back. Yeah, this looks already a bit better. Now I think we should add a bit of gap. So let's first of all see. You see these items have a specific padding to the left, so of this logo. And the padding is actually 57 pixels, as you see right here. Or I'm sorry, 74 pixels. So let me actually add that. So right here for our div element, which is the wrapper or the parent, let's do a padding left of a custom value, which will be 74 pixels. Then we'll also have in gap x, let me see, this is right here 56 pixels. So let's do in gap x of custom value, which will be 56 pixels. So now let's save that, let's go back. And yeah, this looks quite nice now. You see our icon on the left and the 4 nav links right here with correct padding and correct gap in the middle. Now, what is still missing? Well, right here on the right side, we are missing this, or how is it called? Open account button. So let's actually add that right now. Now, how do you add that? Well, right here we have our image with the user icon and the sign-in button, and we want to have the open account button on the left. So right here in this div element, I will just add an p tag, and let's just say open an account. If I now save that and go back, let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks fine, but you see that the font and the text color is not coherent with the other items. So first of all, also if we open the mobile screen, you will see that this text shows right now, even though it should not show. So I can again add a class name. The class name will be hidden on mobile screen, and on large devices it will be block. If I now save it, you will see on mobile devices we don't have this text anymore, but on large devices we have the text. Also, if you check right now our Figma file, you see that the font weight is again 500, so this will be font of medium. Then we of course also have a text color, so I will again copy it. Let's do right here text of custom value, and I will just paste the color. Then what else do we need? Let me check the file. We have a padding to the right side, as you see right here, and the padding is actually 56 pixels, as you see right here. So what I will do right now is add a padding right, and the padding right will have a custom value of 56 pixels. Let me see how that looks on large devices, and yeah, I think that looks actually quite nice. So the padding right here on the left side is the same as the padding right here on the right side. And now I think that's actually already everything. We have added everything. Let me again check Figma. So we have our icon on top or our logo on the left. Yes, we have that. We have our nav links. Let's check it. Yeah, that looks fine. And on the right side, we have an open an account button and sign in button. And yes, we also have that. On mobile, everything should look also good. And yes, this also looks perfect. So I would now officially say that our navbar is mobile friendly and desktop friendly. And now we can actually start with the fun stuff, which is the hero. So let's actually now create a hero. So to do that, what I will actually do is create another component. So in the components folder, let's create a hero.tsx. And again, let's do an export function. Let's name it hero and let me open that function. Inside of here, I will now just return again gibberish, so div, and let's say h1, and let's say hello from the hero component. Let me save that, and if I now go back, you see nothing. Why is that? Well, that's again because our page.tsx currently does not have the hero component imported, and it also does not render it. So under the nav element or navbar component, I will now actually import our hero component from our components. this is in self-closing tag. And if I now save that, we now have the text right here, hello from the hero component. So this looks again quite nice, and we can now actually start with the hero. So if you check right now our Figma file, what's the first thing you see? Well, if I head over to the h1 tag right here and look to the top, we actually have a bit of padding as you see. Now, how much padding do we have? Well, you see we have a padding in total of 16 pixels. So what we'll do now is head over to the hero, let me delete everything, let's create a new div element, and let's use class name. Now again, we have to now add this padding, so what I can do is padding top, and we can check we need in total 16 pixels, so this will be padding top of 4. Now inside of this div element, I will actually add another div element, and inside of here I want to have now padding on the horizontal side, because if you can remember in our navbar, let me open it real quick, we have right here padding X of 20 pixels, and that's actually the same what I want to do. So right here, let's add in padding X, and this will be a custom value of 20 pixels. Now inside of this div element, I can add our h1 tag with our title. So let me copy this title right here. So start monitoring your website like a pro. I will copy that. Let me add an h1 tag right here, and let's paste that. Now let's head over to our localhost. Let me make it mobile friendly right here. And yeah, that's what you see. You see it's not styled and it does not look good. So let's see what we actually need. So first of all, the text should be center. So let's add a class name to the h1 and let's say text, which will be center. Now, what you'll see right here is that we also have a font size of 32 pixels. So let me actually add that. Again, custom value of 32 pixels. Also, we have a line height of 40 pixels. So let's actually add a leading, and the leading will again be a custom value of how much was it? 40 pixels. If I save it and go back, let's actually see. Yeah, okay, the text sizing already looks way better. I think the font weight is not correct. Yes, we have a font weight of 500. So let's do a font of medium, since this has a font weight of 500. What else do we need? Leading, we added that. The text color. So right here we have a text color, again, a custom value. So I will again just copy that, and let's do a text of custom value with the color. Now I haven't copied that, so let me copy it again, paste that. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks very nice. The text is now way more bold. The color has changed a bit, and this looks quite nice in my opinion. So now we have created the h1 tag. Now we also right here have an p tag with a description. So let me actually just copy right here the content. Let's go back, and under the h1 tag, I will now create this p tag and just paste what I've copied. Right here I just get some default error because I used this uptick. I will just delete the uptick, and now I don't get any errors anymore. If I now check our screen, you see, yeah, that looks fine, but still not perfect, because first of all, our text right here is currently left aligned, but in Figma, our description is aligned in the center. So what do we do right here? First of all, let's add a class name. Let's add text, which will be center. Also, we have padding. So right here, we have a padding of 24 pixels, a top padding of 24 pixels, and this is equivalent to padding top of 6. So padding top of 6 is right here 24 pixels, and that's exactly what we have right here. We have a padding of 24 pixels. Another thing we have right here is actually a different font color. So I will copy that, and let's again do text of custom value, and let's add the color. What else do we have? We have a font weight of 400, that's fine. Font size of 60 pixels, which is also fine. I think this should actually be all. Let's see our website. Let me reload it. Did I not add text center? Let me see. Did I misspell something? Text center. Let's see. Yeah, this looks already way better. You see the font color has changed, and also the text is now centered. So this looks great. What else do we now need? We have a title, we have a small description. Now we have these two big buttons. So let's actually add them. So I will head back, and now under the p tag, I will create actually a new div element. So let me go right here and create a new div element. Now this div element will house the two buttons. So let me first of all give it a class name, which will be flex and w full. Now I add flex because again, I want to horizontally align them both. Now inside of this div element, I can create two buttons, so button 1 and button 2. And the first button will have a value of try for free. So let me add it right here. And the second button will have a value of view pricing. And let me add it right here. And now if you check it out, so let me open our Chrome browser. Well, they don't look like actually buttons. They look more like, I guess, just text. So let me first of all style our first button, which is right here, this indigo button. Let me first of all copy our background color, and then we can right here give them class name, and this will be a BG of again custom value. Then the next thing I will do is add in width, and I will add in width of 1/2 since I want the button to actually take 1/2 of the screen. Now one thing we also have is padding, so you see right here on the vertical we have padding of 60 pixels or 16 pixels, and on the horizontal x-axis we have 32 pixels. So what I can do right here in our button is add in padding y, which will be 4, and this corresponds to 16 pixels, and padding x of 8, which corresponds to 32 pixels. If you now save that and actually check how it looks, you see already it looks way better. One thing I can also add right here is now text of white, and also we have a rounding on the border as you see right here, and the rounding is 4 pixels. So let's do a rounded, and let's add a custom value of 4 pixels. If you now save it actually and go back, you see already this looks actually quite nice in my opinion. Now let's actually also style the second button right here, so the view pricing button. It will be actually almost the same, so class name of width 1/2, and the text color will now be actually a different color, so this will be now a blue color. I will again copy this text color, let's add it right here, so text color of custom value, and then I think that's fine. Now let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks quite nice. Now one thing we're actually missing right now is this right icon. So right here we have this icon on the right side and blue arrow. So on the top, what I will now do is import that. So on top, let's do import blue arrow. This will be from // public assets, and let's say blue button. Now right here we can add a span element. So let's use span. Let's use our image component. I haven't imported that, so let me import our image component from next/image. Let's give it a source of blue arrow and an alt of, let's just say, I don't know, learn more. So let me save it. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that does not look good at all. First of all, let me delete the spacing right here. Let me give it in flex, and let's do an items of center. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, this already looks a bit better, but still not perfect as you see. So what I can do right now is add and justify of center and gap x of, let's say, 2. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks already 1,000 times better, and I actually like how it looks now. So now one more thing actually which does not look good right now is the padding from the buttons to our description. So let's check how much margin we have. We have right here a margin of 32 pixels. So let's add it right here to our div element. I will right here just add a padding top of 8, and this corresponds to 32 pixels as you see right here. So if you now check it, it looks very beautiful in my opinion. Now what's the last thing which is missing? Well, that's our image and our gradient and then our company icons. So let's add them right now. So how we'll do that is actually right here above the last div element. I will create another div element, and this will now be quite interesting since it's actually not that easy to create this effect, since this element will actually be positioned absolute and this item will be relative. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, this element will now have a class name of relative. I will give it a flex element. Let's also do age of full, so height of 100%, and width of full, also 100%, and let's do justify of center. Now inside of here, I will actually want to render my image component again, and I will want to render specifically the gradient. So what you see right here, this beautiful gradient. For that, I will actually have to import that. So on top, let me do import. Let's just say gradient, and this will be from // public assets, and this will be the gradient.svg. I can now add it right here for the source. So the source will be gradient. And for the alt tag, let's just say, I don't know, gradient. I think that's fine. What I will now add is also a class name, and the class name will be a minimum height of 500 pixels. If I now save that and go back, let's see how that looks. Yeah, I can actually make the zoom a bit smaller right here, and you see this looks actually quite nice. Still not perfect, but I will actually fix that in a second. So now inside of here, since we have now added the minimum height, let's also actually add a width of full, and let's do an object which will be cover. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, this already looks 1,000 times better, as you see, and we now have actually the nice height. So now what do we do now? What we will do now is actually add our image right here, and again, this one will be absolutely positioned. So what we'll do now is go under this image component and create another div element. I will give it a class name, and this will now be absolute and bottom of not 0 but 5. Let's also do a flex and a W of full, flex which will be call, and items which will be center. Now inside of here I will again use our image component, and what I want to render inside of here is now actually our hero image. So to get that, let's go again on the top and let's do import. Let's say hero image. This will be from ... public assets, and I named it image.svg. So now I can right here head over, give it a source of hero image, alt of hero image, and if I now save it, let's see how that looks. Yeah, I don't think that looks quite good. You see that this image touches the right border of our screen, and if I go to Figma, you see that this isn't the same case right here. So what I will actually do is add a minus margin. So what I can do is right here add a class name for our image component and do a minus margin left of 2. If I now save that and go back, you now see that this looks a bit better. I can actually also do a bit more, so margin left of 4. And you see, yeah, this looks quite nice in my opinion. Also, I will now add a height, which will be a custom value of, let's say, 310 pixels. And if I save that, you still see everything looks quite nice. So now I think this is finished. Our hero image now works perfectly for the mobile screen. So what I want to add now is this paragraph with trusted by these companies, and then also the 5 icons right here, or the 5 company icons. So what we'll do is go under the image component again and add a div element. Now for the div element, I will do a class name, and this will be flex. This will be W of full, flex which will be column, and let's do items which will be center, and this should be all. Now inside of here, let's first of all render our p tag. Now what's the value? It's trusted by these companies. I will copy it and paste that, and let's first of all see how that looks. Yeah, it again looks quite trash, I'm sorry. So let's change it. First of all, we'll have a different color, so I will again just copy this color. Then let me give it a class name of text with a custom value. Then what else do we have? We have a font weight of 400, text of font size 16 pixels, so that looks all fine. The only thing I think we should do is add a text of center, and if I now save that and go back, this looks already way better. What do we do now? I think we should now add these icons. So under this p tag, I will add another div element. And now how do we position them? Well, I will actually use grid. So let me give it a class name of grid, and let's do grid calls of 3, not 4. And then also let's do items of center, let's do justify of center, and let's also do justify items also of center. Now this should be fine. Inside of here we can now actually render the icons. So let's get the image component, let's give it a source, let's give it an alt, and now we have to actually import the images. So on top, what images do we need? Let's do import Google. So let's do from // public assets, and this will be google.svg. Then the next one which we'll have is actually the Slack icon, and this will be from assets and /Slack. Then the next icon which we'll have is the Trustpilot icon, and this will be from assets / trustpilot.svg. Then the next icon which we have is the CNN icon, and this will be from assets / cnn.svg. And then the last icon is the clutch icon. So let's get clutch from assets / clutch. and this should be clutch.svg. So now we have imported all brand icons and we can now use them right here. So let's get the Google icon, then let's actually get right here our Slack icon. Then the next icon which we'll have is the Trustpilot icon. Then right here we'll have the CNN icon, and then the last one will be the clutch icon. So if I now save that and go back, let's actually see how that looks. And you see, yeah, it looks fine, but the padding is not quite correct. So what we'll actually do right here is add a bit of padding. So let's actually do a padding X of 20 pixels, again custom value, and let's also do align of middle. Let's save that, let's see how that looks, and yes, that looks way better in my opinion. So now we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 icons, and they look quite nice. Now, I think this looks quite nice on a mobile screen, but if I now show it to you on a desktop screen, it will look ugly. Yeah, it does not look good at all, as you see right here. So let's actually change that. So let's start again with the top, with the H1. So if you go to Figma right here, first of all, what changes is the padding to the top. We now have a padding top of 44 pixels, so that's exactly what we'll do right now. Let me go back, and now instead of padding 4, let's do on large devices a padding top of 10. And padding top of 10 is 40 pixels, as you see right here. Then another thing I want to do is on larger devices, I also want to change the padding X horizontal. So if you see right here, the padding X is of almost 300 pixels, so it's 297 pixels on the left, on the right. What I will do is actually, instead of almost 300 pixels, I will do a padding X of custom value 280 pixels. So if you now see on our screen, it's a bit more in the middle, and I think that looks even better. Now, what else do we need? Well, we have to change our H1 title. So as you see now, our font size has changed to 64 pixels and our line height has changed to 72 pixels. So what we'll do right here for our H1 is add an LG of text, and this will be a custom value of 64 pixels, and an LG which will be leading of again custom value 72 pixels. If I now save that and go back, you now see, okay, this looks already almost like in Figma, or not almost, it looks the same as in Figma. And our description now still has to be changed. So if you head over right here, does the padding change? We have a padding top of 24 pixels. No, I don't think we have to change that actually, but we have to change the text size. So our text size has now changed to 18 pixels. So what I will do right here, so for our p tag, is add LG, and let's do a text of custom value 18 pixels. Also, let's add an LG of leading, and this will be 7, and 7 is 28 pixels, and if you check it right here, our line height is 28 pixels. So this should look nice. Let's see. And yeah, this looks very nice. Now, the last thing that does not look good right now are the buttons. So the buttons currently both have a width of 50% of the total width, and in large devices, as you see right here, this shouldn't be the case. So what I will do for both buttons is add a modifier. So on larger devices, I want to have width of fit, and the same for here. So LG should be width of fit, and if I now save it, you'll see this will look way better. Still not perfect, since our items are now centered to the left, and I don't want that. So for our div parent right here, let's do a justify, which will be center. Let's also do a gap X actually of 6. And I think this should be fine. Let's see. Yeah, I think that looks way better right now. So our buttons are now in the center and they don't have this big width anymore. So this should actually be perfect. I don't think we have to change anything anymore here. Now the last thing we have to change is of course this stuff right here. So our image is way too big, and right here our trusted by these companies section is also not correct, since in the desktop environment it should be now centered horizontally, as you see right here. So the first thing I want to do now is first of all fix our whole image dilemma. So to do that, let's head over back to our code. Let's head over to this section right here, which deals with these images. So if right here, the first thing I want to do is add on larger devices, I want the gradient to have a height of auto. And then the next thing which I want actually to do is actually play around with the hero image. So again, the hero image currently is way too small. So what we have to do is actually play around with it and give it a bit of custom height depending on the actual screen size. So what I will do right now is actually right here on smaller devices, so SM or bigger, I will give it a minus margin bottom of 20. Then I will give it on small devices again a height of 400 pixels. Then on larger devices, minus margin bottom of 28, and also let's do an LG of H, which will be auto, and XL, which will be width of, let's say, custom value of 70%. Let's see how that looks actually right now. Now this looks actually quite alright, as you see right here, still not perfect. Our icons on the bottom are not sized correctly, so let's actually change that right now. Let's go back and let's right here play with this div element, since that's actually the parent element. So again, on the larger devices, let's say container. Let's do on larger devices a flex, which will be row and not anymore flex column. On larger devices, let's do justify between. Then let's also do on larger devices padding X of 20. Let's see how that now looks. Yeah, that's already good. So on the left side, we have trusted by these companies, and on the right side, we have these icons. But these are now still stacked in a grid, and I want to have 5 columns. So let me again also change that. So right here with this div element where we play with this grid, let me actually add right here on larger devices a grid which will have columns of 5. If I now save that and go back, you now see this looks very nice, and that's actually exactly how I want it to look. The only thing right now is this trusted by these companies. Let's see if this is sized correctly. So size 18 pixels. So let me change that right here. On larger devices, let's do text of custom value 18 pixels. Let's see how that looks. So right here, yeah, it's a bit bigger, it's still white. This looks quite nice. So let's now see how it looks on mobile. Let me do that. Yes, this works. And if I now make it on desktop, it still works perfectly. So now you see our hero is officially done. It works on mobile and also on desktop. And what we can do now is actually, if I head over to Figma, is add the feature section as you see it right here. So let's do that right now. For that, I will again open my Explorer, and then in the components, let me create a new file called features.tsx. Now inside of this file, how do we start? Well, it's always the same with an export function. Let's name it features, and let me open that function. Inside of here, let me just again return a simple div with an h1, and let's say hello from the features component. If I now save that and go back to our dev server, you don't see anything. Why is that? Well, that's again because in our index page, we don't currently render the features component. So under the hero, let me actually import our features right here. And this is again self-closing tag. And let's see right here, we now have on the bottom left, hello from the features component. So this is very nice. Now the thing is, right now you see the padding is again not correct. So you see right here our navbar has a certain padding on the left and on the right. But our hello from the features component does not have any padding at all. So what I will actually now do is go back, and we will wrap my features component in a div element, paste that back, and let's actually style our div right here. Let's give it a padding X of custom value 20 pixels on a small device, and on large devices we'll do container and LG of padding X 20 and MX of auto. If I now save it and go back, you will now see that the padding is the same as of the padding right here and right here on the top. So this again looks very nice in my opinion. Still, of course, this is not how our features will look at the end. We don't want hello from the features component, but we want to see something like this, something very nice. So let's again make the screen on mobile, since we always start with the mobile screen. I will again add in zoom of 100, let's say 25%, and you don't see anything. So let's again go to 100%. So right here, what will we add? So the first thing you see is right here, sales monitoring. This is what we'll have to add. So let's actually go back to the features right here. Let me actually first of all delete everything inside of the return statement. We don't need that at all. Let me start with a new div element, and let's give it a class name. Now what's one thing you see right here? We have in total 3 features, right? 1, 2, and 3. Now, how are they aligned? Well, they are aligned vertically. What does that mean? Well, that means that they are flex column. So what we'll do is add a flex which will be column. And also one thing you see is a padding Y. So we have a gap of Y of 57 or 56 pixels. So we can add a gap Y of custom value 56 pixels. Also right here, we have a padding Y of 56 pixels. So that's your padding Y of custom value 56 pixels. And this should now actually be all. Now inside of this div, I will add another div, and let's give it a class name of flex which will be call, and this should be actually all for now. Now inside of this div element, what I want to now add is actually all of the items for this feature block. So let me create another div element, and inside of here I will start with an h3 tag. Now this h3 tag will just house the sales monitoring text. So let me paste that. Now let's add a class name right here. What do we have? We have a font weight of 500. So let's do font, which will be medium. Then we have a text color. So let me copy the text color. This will be text of custom value with the color. Then what else do we have? 16 font weight 500 and color. I think this should be actually already all. So let's see how that looks on mobile. Yes, that looks quite nice in my opinion. Now the next thing we have is an H1 right here with simplify your sales monitoring. So I will copy that, and then under the H3, let me add the H1 tag. Let's just paste the value right here. So simplify your sales monitoring. Let's add a class name and let's see what we need. So first of all, padding top is 12 pixels. So let's do padding top of custom value 12 pixels. Then what else do we have? We have a text size of 24 pixels. So this is the same to text 2XL. Then the font weight is 500. So font, which will be medium. Then what else do we have? Color. We have a text color. So let me copy the text color and add a custom value of this text color. Let's see how that looks right here. So, yeah, that looks quite nice in my opinion actually. And we don't need anything more. Now the last thing we need right here is this image as you see. So let me first of all import that. So what I can do on top is first of all import the image. So let's do import feature1 from // public assets and feature1. Let's do the same for feature 2 and 3. So feature 2, and this will be imported from feature 2 svg, and then feature 3, which will be imported from feature 3.svg. This looks very nice. So right here I can again import our image component from next/image and give it in source actually. The source will be feature 1. Then let's give it an alt. This will just be feature 1 image. And let's add a class name. We see we have some padding right here of padding top 24 pixels. So let's do padding top of custom value 24 pixels. And I think that's already all. So I can now save that. And let's see how that looks. Right here, we now render the image. And this looks quite nice as you see. We have the correct padding and everything renders perfectly. So now under this image, you see we render a small description. So let me actually copy this description right now. And then what I will do is actually under this image component, I will add a p tag with our description. Now again, I get a small error. Let me just delete this uptick, and then I don't get any errors anymore. Now we of course have to style it. So first of all, we have a padding to the top of 24 pixels and a padding to the bottom of 24 pixels. So what we can do is add a class name of padding y custom value 24 pixels. Also we have a text color. So if I click on that, we can just copy this text color right here. Let's do a text of custom value and the text color. Then I think this should be already all because our font size is 16 and our font weight is normal. So let me save that and let's see how that looks. Yeah, this looks very nice. And what else do we need? Now we have to actually create this bullet list right here with 3 items. So let's do that. So under the P element, I will now create an unordered list, so an UL. Then inside of here, let me give it a class name. This will be flex. flex call. Why? Because we'll stack them vertically. Let's also give it a gap y, because if you check right here, we have a gap y of 12 pixels, and this is the same as gap y of 3. Inside of here, we can now actually render an li tag, and then inside of this li tag, we have to render first of all this check mark right here, and then just this text. So what I will do inside of this li is first of all add and span. Inside of here, we'll use an image component, and for the source, I will actually need a check mark. So on top, I will just import check from // public assets, and this should be check.svg. Now inside of here, I can just render my check and give it also an alt tag of just check mark. If I now save that, you will see that we won't see much. We'll just see the check mark, but not the actual text. So under the span element, let me just say lorem ipsum, or let me just copy it. Why should I even write it myself? I will copy it and just paste that. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, we again have the same issue as we always do. Our two items are stacked vertically and not horizontally. So what we can do is add right here in our li tag a class name of flex, items which will be center, and gap which will be x of 2. If I now save that and go back, you now see that looks already way better. Now one issue I have is that we have right here a custom text color. So I will copy this text color and add right here text of custom value. And let's add that. So if we now save that and go back, you see this now looks actually very nice, and I don't see anything which we should actually change. Now let me copy this li element and paste it 2 more times, I'm sorry, so that we have in total 3, I guess now, bullet points. So now we have added the 3 bullet points, and the last thing which we need is this learn more button. So that's exactly what we'll add right now. And to do that, it's actually quite simple. So under this ul tag, we'll just create a new p element, and then in this p element, we'll say learn more, and then right here, we'll add a span element, and let's again render a image component, and then inside of this image component, I want to render our blue button. So on top, what I can do is first of all import our blue button. So let's do blue button from // public assets, and this should be a blue button. I can now right here pass it to my source, so blue button, and for the alt, let me just say learn more. If I now save that and go back, let's see how that looks. Yeah, we again have the issue as we always do. It's stacked vertically and not horizontally. So for the p tag, I can add a class name of flex and items, which will be center. This should fix that. Yeah, this did fix it. Let's also right here add a gap x, so gap x of 2. And also one thing I see, I think we have to change the padding to the top. So currently we don't have any padding to the top. And how much should it be? The padding to the top should be 24 pixels. So let's add padding top of custom value 24 pixels. What's another thing? Right here we have a font weight of 500. So let's actually do a font which will be medium. Let's save that. What else do we have? We have a custom text color. So let me add a text with this text color. What else do we need? Text color, this. I think it should be fine. Let's see how that looks. And yeah, this looks perfect as you see. We have everything. We have the button, we have perfect padding, we have text right here, we have a bullet list, the image, the title, and the subtitle. So this looks very nice. What I want to do now, before we create the other 2 features, is actually first of all make this one feature responsive, so that it also works on desktop. Because if I now open our desktop screen, this is how it currently looks. And let's be honest, this does not look good at all. So let's actually change that right now. Now the first thing is right here on top, where we have our padding y and gap y. If you head over to Figma and open the desktop screen, now one thing you will see on this desktop is actually that our padding y changes right here to 120 pixels. So instead of 56 pixels, we now have 120. So what I will do right here is just an LG of padding y, custom value 120 pixels. And also our gap y changes. You see now we have a gap y of 80 pixels. So on larger devices, let's do a gap y and this should be a custom value of 80 pixels. Now you'll see not much has actually changed. The only thing that has changed is the padding, which is fine. So what we'll do now is actually make it that the image right here is on the left side, as you see right here, or not on the left side, but on the right side, and the text should be on the left side. So how do we do that? Well, it's actually not that simple as you would think. So what we'll do is actually we'll have to not show this image, but actually show another image. So right here, in between these two divs right here, I will actually render another image component. We'll give it the same source, which will be feature1. We'll give it a alt text, and the alt will just be feature1 image. Let's give it a class name, and this will be hidden by default. I don't want to show it on mobile devices, but on large devices, I will add in width, which will be 1/2, and then also on smaller devices, so from small to big, I want to actually show it, so let's do block. So if I now save that, this is what you now see. You see two images, they don't look good. So what you can do for this image is just say on small or bigger devices, let's just do hidden. If I now save that and go back, you now see we only have one image and one big image in that case, and this text right here. Now still this isn't perfect because this should be flex and not how it is currently, flex call. So what we can do is actually quite simple. Right here where we have flex and flex call, we can first of all add a gap, which will be x of 6. And let's also do on larger devices, or on smaller devices, a flex row of reverse. If I now save it, this is what you see right now. This looks already fine, but one thing you see right now is that this currently touches the left border and the top border. But if you check Figma, we actually have padding right here. So on the top, 56 pixels, and on the right, also 56 pixels. So what do we do now? How do we change it? Well, it's actually quite simple. So right here for this div element, I will add a class name. So for the class name on small devices, I want to get a width of 1/2. And what I also want to do is on large devices, a padding y of custom value 56 pixels, and on large devices, a padding right of 56 pixels. If I now save that and go back, let's see how that looks. Yeah, this looks way better as you see. Now the only thing I have to actually change is the sizing. So currently our size is still on the mobile size, so it's way too small. So let me change it and make it a bit bigger. So to do that, let's head over. So for sales monitoring, our font size changes to 800 pixels. 18 pixels, I'm sorry. So for the H3, I can just do on large devices, let's do a text, which will be a custom value of 18 pixels. Then for our H1 right here, you see our font size changes to 42 pixels and a line height of 58 pixels. So what I can do right here is on large devices, let's just do a text of custom value, and this will be 42 pixels. And on large devices, a leading, and the leading will be 58 pixels. So this should actually look quite good. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's bigger. I like that actually very much. The next thing we have to change right here is this text. So the little description, this isn't currently styled as it should be, because if you click right here on it, you will see that the text size or the font size changes to 18 pixels. So right here for the p tag, I can say on larger devices, let's add a text which will be 18 pixels. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks already way better. Now for the unordered list, this is still not sized correctly as you see right here. So what we have to do is actually change the text sizing. And the text sizing also changes to 18 pixels. So for the UL, what I can just do is right here add an LG, and this will be text of right here custom value 18 pixels. If I now save that and go back, you already see that's now bigger and also looks better. Now, what's the last thing which we have? Well, that's our right here Learn More button. The Learn More button should also have a size of 18 pixels if you click on it right here. So font size 18 pixels. Let me also add that. So for the p tag, I can just say, hey, on larger devices, just give me a text, and this should be a custom value of 18 pixels. So now if I actually save that and head over, you now see that this looks actually quite nice in my opinion. Now, what's missing? So we now have one feature down and we now have two more features. Now, in a perfect environment, you would now create a separate component and then just map over your, I guess, feature list and then just render it like that. So clean architecture. But this tutorial will not really now be based on clean architecture. I just want to show you how you can convert your Figma styles to an actual website. So I will now just do a, I guess, faster way and just do a copy paste, since that's faster than now creating a separate component and just then creating the props and everything like that. So what we'll do is actually, we have this parent element on top with the flex call and everything like that. I will now just copy this div element inside of there. So inside of the parent, I will copy it and paste it down below again. If I would now save that actually and head over, you would now see that we have 2 times the same component. This is of course not nice, so we have 2 times the same feature, but this shouldn't be, because now we should have this image and then a green text with other text. So what we can do right here is, first of all, instead of feature 1, let's add an image of feature 2. The same also for here, feature 2. If I now save that and go back, you now see that first of all the image has changed, which is already nice. What I want to do now is change right here our subtitle. So instead of what do we have now, sales monitoring, this should be customer support. So let me copy that and paste that right here. The text color also changes, so let me copy the text color right here and paste it right here. Let's see how that now looks. Yeah, this is already better. Now our learn more button is not correct, it's blue, it should be green. So if I head right here, let me change the color to this green color. So this looks now nice. Now the thing right now is that this icon is blue, but it should be green. So on top, what I can do now is import our green button. So let's do green button from // public, and it should be green assets, and this should be now green button. So on the bottom, I can now actually just render the green button. Let's do that. Let's head over. And yes, this looks already way better. Now let me change the text. This should be get in touch with your customer. So let me change that. Where is it? It's right here. So let me change that. Then let me also change the description. I will copy that and just paste that. And this is the same, so that's fine. And then for the UL, I will just leave it as it is right now. So yeah, this already looks way better. We now have the same text, the same padding and everything like that. Now, if you now look closely, one thing you will see right now is that this image should be on the left side, but right now it's on the right side. So how do we fix that? Again, it's quite simple. Right now we have a flex row of reverse, but now instead of doing a reverse, I will just delete the reverse. And if I save that and go back, you now see that the image is on the left side and the text on the right side. Now there's still one thing. Currently, if I actually open my DevTools, you will see that we now have padding on the top and on the right side, or on the y-axis and on the right side. But in Figma, what you should see is actually we should have padding on the y-axis and on the left side, and instead of how we have it right now on the right side. This is again a very simple fix. So LGPY 56 pixels looks good. The only thing we have to change right here is instead of LG padding right, we'll do it padding left. If I now save that and go back, you now see, hey, this looks very nice and it's exactly how it should be. If I now open it in a mobile screen, so let me do mobile screen right here, you also see everything looks perfect. Everything is sized correctly, the padding looks good, and that's very nice. Now the last thing we have is the last feature, the third feature. So what I will do is again just copy this first feature, so the feature with the blue color. Let me copy that, let me paste it under the second feature. Let's save that, let's go back. We now have 3 features as you see. Now let me change first of all the image. Instead of feature 1, this will be image of feature 3. The same for here, feature 3. If I save that and go back, now the image has changed. That's quite nice. Let's also change the text. So this should be growth monitoring. Let me change that. Then for the title, this should be monitor your site's new subscribers. Let me paste that right here. Then for the description, it will actually stay the same as you see right here. Let me also change the color. This is this pinkish color. I will just copy the color right here. So instead of this blue, let me add it right here and on the bottom for the learn more button. So if I now save that and go back to Chrome, yeah, you see that looks quite nice. Now the learn more button right here currently has this blue button. this shouldn't be blue, it should be pink. So on top, what I can do now is import the pink button. So let's do import pink button from // public assets, and this should be pink button. So let's head over down right now and add our pink button right here. This looks quite nice. Let's see. Yeah, this is how it should look. Now, one thing you see right now, we have this unordered list right now. But if you head over to Figma, you will see that this should not be an unordered list, but I don't know, a stats card, as you see right here. So let's actually change it, and it will be again actually quite simple. So instead of using this UL tag, I will actually delete the UL tag. So I will delete it and add a div element instead. I will give it a class name, which will be flex and w full. I will give it a gap x, since if you check right here, we have a gap x. So on mobile screen, we have a gap x of 24 pixels. So let's do gap x of custom value 24 pixels. And then let's also add a padding top of also 24 pixels, not 25, but 24 pixels. So this looks good. Now inside of this div element, I want to render the two stat cards. So let's render the first div and then also the second div. Now inside of the first div, we should right here render a h3 tag. This should say something like 100 plus. So I will copy that and paste that. And then under the h3 tag, let me render a p tag with this lorem ipsum. Now let me actually style first of all this div element. So what I want to do is add a width of 50% for both. So for this div right here, I can add a class name of w, which will be 1/2, flex, which will be call, and a gap y, which will be 3. Because if you check it out, we have a gap of 12 pixels. Let's do the same also for this div. So inside of this div, I render a h3 and I render a p tag. For the h3, this will be 800 plus. So let me paste that. And for the p tag, I will copy this description and also add it right here. Now let me style the div. This will be again class name of width 1/2, flex, and then flex, which will be call. Now the last thing which we need right here is the gap y of 3. And if I now save that and go back, let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks fine. It's just not styled. So let me actually style it right now. So for the h3 tag, let's give it a class name. Let's see how big it is first of all. So we have a text of 20 pixels. So let's do text of custom value 20 pixels. Then the font, let's see, it's font 500. So let's do font medium. And then what else do we need? Let's check the text color. I will copy it and then just add the custom value. And what else do we need? I don't think we need anything else. Let me copy the style also for the other h3 tag right here. So class name, and let me just add that. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks quite nice. Let me also now style the description. So this has a different color. So I will copy this right here. Let's add it for the class name. This will be text of custom color. The font size, let's see. The font size is 16 pixels, so that's the default, that's fine. I actually think that's all. So let me copy the color also for this p tag right here. Let's add a class name of this color. Let's go back. And yes, this looks very nice. Let me see how it looks on mobile actually. And yes, on mobile it also looks quite nice. Now the padding is not quite correct as you see. I don't think I have to add any padding on top. So right here, let me just delete this padding top of 24 pixels. And this now looks perfect as you see right here. So it works on mobile and it also works on desktop as you see right here. Now what's the third thing we have to do? So we have now created a navbar, we have created a hero section, we have created the feature section. Now the next step is to create a FAQ section. So let me do that right now. So now to do that, it's quite simple again. We'll go in the app folder, in the components folder, and let's create a new file called faq.tsx. Now inside of here, we always start as we always do. So we create an export function. So let's do an export function and let me name it FAQ and let's open it. Inside of here, I will now do a return statement, div element, h1, and let's say hello from the FAQ section. So let me save it. Let's go back. And we don't see it anywhere. Why is that? Well, that's because we have to render it in our index page, so in our page.tsx. So right under our features, let me import our FAQ component. This is in self-closing tag. And if I now go back, you see right here, hello from the FAQ section. Very nice. So let's again style with the mobile screen. So how does it look? First of all, we again have a subtitle with frequently asked questions, a title and a small description. Let's start with that. So in the FAQ component right here, let me again delete everything, we don't need it. Let me start fresh with a new div element. Let's give it a class name and let's start with a flex and flex of call. Why flex call? Again, because we align it vertically and not horizontally. Then let's also do a W of full, so 100%. So now what's the first thing we have right here? Well, that's padding, and the padding is 48 pixels. So what I will do right here is padding Y of custom value, 48 pixels. And I think that's actually all for now. We have padding Y and we added everything. Now inside of this div element, I will create another div element. And then inside of this div element, I will now actually render our p tag, or not a p tag, but an h3 tag for our subtitle. Now inside of here, this will just be frequently asked questions. So I will copy that and paste that. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks alright, I guess. Not perfect, but it's fine. So right here, now let's actually style this subtitle. So this should have this pinkish color. I will copy the color right here. Let's give it right here a class name and let's add text to this custom value. What else do we have? We have a font size of 14 pixels. So let's do a custom value of text, which will be 14 pixels. What else do we have? Do we have a font? Yes, we have a font weight of 500. So this will be just font of medium, as you see right here. And I think this should be already all. So if I now save that and go back, let's see. Yeah, it looks quite nice, as you see, frequently asked questions. Underneath that, we will now render an h1. So let me copy this value. So right here, let's create an h1 and paste it right here. Let me again just delete this uptick, I don't need it. And let's style it right now. So first of all, we have some padding of 16 pixels. So I can add a class name of padding y4. Then what's the text size? Well, the text size is 24 pixels. So I can do a text of 2XL, which is the same in pixels. Let's see, font weight, it's 500. So let's do font of medium. And what else do we have? We have a text color. So I will copy that and add it right here, custom value as always. And what else do we have? I think this should be actually all. So let's see how that looks on desktop. Let me save it first of all and let's go back. And yes, this again looks quite nice in my opinion. Now currently there's one thing that I don't like right here, and that's this padding right here. I won't change it right now, but maybe I will change it later. I will see. But for now, let's just leave it like that. So now we have this h1, and what else do we need? We need the small description of lorem ipsum. So let me copy that. Under h1, let's create a p tag. Let me paste that actually, save that. I don't need the spacing, so let me delete that. Now what do we need right here? So first of all, we have a text color. I will copy that. Let's add a class name of this text color. What else do we have? Font size 16, font weight 400. We have padding bottom of 24 pixels. So let me just add a padding bottom, which will be 24 pixels. So if I now save that and go back, this looks actually quite nice, as you see. Now there's one thing currently, and that's that we now have to create an actual FAQ section. Now you could do it two ways. A, you would just do it hand-coded with a bit of JavaScript and use state and would just do it somehow like that. Or we could actually just use already a pre-built component. And that's actually exactly what we'll do. So if you go to radixui.com, this is actually a component library which is not styled. You can click on primitives right here and click on get started. Now what exactly do we need from here? Well, we need the accordion. So you can search for it, and this is the accordion. So an accordion is actually just an FAQ section, as you see right here, and that's exactly what we want to create. So what I will do is right here, click on this installation command. Let's go back, let's open the terminal, stop the dev server, and then let me just paste the command to install our accordion. This will now install for a bit, so let's wait for that. You now see it has been installed, so let's run npm run dev to restart our dev server, and now we can actually use it to style our components. So the first thing you have to do right here is just import everything as an accordion, so that's exactly what I will do. And now we actually import everything as an accordion, which is nice. And now the first thing I think we should do is actually create an array of items. So let's do const items. this will just be an array with multiple objects. Now we'll have always a value of question, this will be in string, and then an answer, which will be also string. I will just copy it from here. So the question is this right here, this gibberish. Let me paste that, and the answer is this gibberish, so let me copy it and paste that. I will now actually copy and paste that, I don't know, 4 times. Let's see. Yeah, I think this is fine. And now we have an FAQ section with about 5 questions and answers. So now we actually have to create that so that we see it. So under the p tag and under this div tag, so right above the last div tag, let me create a new div element. And now inside of here, we now have to make our accordion work. So right here, we start with an accordion.root. So we always have a root. And then inside of here, we have to add a few properties. So right here, you see, first of all, we have to add a type. The type will be right here single. Then the next thing, which I actually need right here, is the default value. So the default value will be item-1. Then this will be collapsible. So let's add that. And let's also add a class name, and this will just be flex of call, and gap y of 4. Why gap y of 4? Well, because if you check right here, we always have a gap of 16 pixels, and that's why I added gap y of 4. Now inside of this accordion.root, I now have to map over my items. So what I can do right here is now get my items. Let's do a dot map. Let's get an item, and let's get a index. And now let me just return that actually. Now right here, I can render a div element, and now we get an error. And React tells me, hey, I need a key property, so please add that. So let me add a key prop, and this will just be the index property. Now inside of this div element, I want to now render the accordion items and then also the answers. So let's right here, first of all, get the accordion.item. And then inside of here, I first of all have to give it a value. So for the value, I will actually use right here this brackets. Let me get the upticks right here. And this will be item dash. And then I can use this dynamic value. And this will be index plus 1. This looks quite nice. And let's also add a class name. And if you check it right now, what do we have? We have a background color. So let me copy this background color first of all. This is this bluish color. So I copied that. Let me add an bg of custom value, and I will just paste that inside of here. Now, what's another thing you see? We have padding of 16 pixels. So let's do padding of custom value 16 pixels. And what else do we have? We have a rounding of 8. So let's do rounded right here, and the rounded will be 8 pixels. If I now save that and go back, you won't see anything, but that's fine. You will see in a second. So this has been now added. Now in our accordion.item, we'll actually have to now render our accordion header. So let me right here get our accordion.header, and inside of the accordion.header, let me render a accordion, so accordion.trigger. Now inside of this accordion.trigger, I will actually render our question. So let me right here get an p tag, and right here I will just render the item.question. And then under this accordion header, let me just render the accordion.content. And inside of here, I can again render a p tag with the item.answer. If I now save that and go back, actually, we should now see an FAQ section. Let me reload the page. So let's see. This takes a bit. So now you see we get an error. Now, why do we get an error right here? Well, that's actually quite simple. The accordion item right here, or the accordion in general, has to hydrate on the client since it uses state. And with Next.js 14, all we have to do is actually mark this component as use client. If I now mark it as use client and again save everything, you still see everything works perfectly. And what do we have now right here? Well, we have an FAQ, and if I click on it, you see it opens and closes. Now, this still does not look nice, so now let's actually style that. Let's first of all style our accordion trigger, so the header right here. So where is it? We have right here our accordion trigger. Let me first of all style the p tag right here. Let's give it a class name. First of all, this is right now text center. So let's do a text of left. If I now save it, you will see it will now be on the left side. For the font, let me check how the font looks like. The font is 500, so let's do font of medium. And then we have a text color, so I will just copy that and add the text color right here. If I now save that and go back, you now see, okay, this looks better. We have now a separation between the answer and the question, but still it does not look perfect. Let me actually style our content right here, our answer. So right here, our p tag, let me give it a class name. Let's first of all check. We have a padding top right here of 8 pixels. So let's do padding top of 2. The font, I think, is normal. Let's see. Yes, 400. So we don't have to change anything. The only thing we have to do is add a text color. So let me copy that and just add it right here. If I now go back, let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks quite nice as you see. Now, what are we missing? If you check right here, we have this plus icon. And that's exactly what I also want to render. So let me import this plus icon on top. What I can do right here is import plus from // public assets, and this should be plus. So now we can actually use that. Now in our accordion.trigger, that's exactly where we want to use it. So under the p tag, let me create a span element. Let's use our beloved image component from next-image or /image. Let's give it a source. The source will be plus and the alt will be C more. If I now save it, let's see how that looks. Yeah, it does not look good. It's again stacked vertically, but it should be stacked horizontally. So I can right here style my accordion.trigger. Let's give it a class name of flex, w full, items, which will be center, and justify, which will be between. If I now save that, you already see this looks way better. The only thing I would maybe change is the sizing. So for the image component, I can give it a class name, and this will be height of 10 and width of 10. If I now save it and go back, you see, yeah, this looks way better and I like it very much. So this now looks very nice on mobile, but if I now go to desktop, you see, yeah, it does not look good at all. So let's actually change that for now. So how do we change it? Well, it's actually quite simple. If you head over to our Figma, what you will see on the desktop is that we'll have like a column. So this almost takes 40% of this whole screen real estate, and this takes like 60% of the screen real estate. And that's exactly what we'll actually do. So the first thing I will actually want to do is play a bit with the padding. So you see on larger devices, we have a padding of 60. So right here, I can do on larger devices, so LG padding Y of custom value 60 pixels. Now for this div element, what we can now actually do is give it in width on larger devices of 1/3, so 33%. So let's do class name of LG width 1/3. And then for this div element, I can add a class name and say, hey, on larger devices, give me a class name of width or in width of 2/3, so 66%. If I now save it and go back, let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks fine, but still we have to also now make it flex row and not flex call. This is also actually quite simple. So what we have to do right here is just add an LG or flex row. Also, we have to add a gap x. So let's do a gap x, and this should be, let's see, 24 pixels. So let's do right here 6. If I now save that and go back, let's see. This looks actually quite nice in my opinion. So now, do we have to change anything? Let's see. So we have the padding, yes. For the frequently asked questions, we have now a font size of 16. So what I can do right here is just add an LG of text base, which will be 16 pixels as you see right here. For the H1, we will have a font size of 42 pixels. So let's add right here a LG, and this should be text of, what should it be, 42 pixels. And let's also add in leading, and this should have a custom value of 58 pixels. And this should also just work on large devices. If I now save it and go back, let's see. Yeah, I like it. It's a bit bigger. That's quite nice. For the description, do we have to add anything? I don't think actually. You could make it a bit bigger as they show it right here, but I actually like how it looks right now. Now there's one thing currently, and that's padding. So right here they have padding top of 32 and padding bottom also 32 pixels and padding right of 56 pixels. So I think we should actually add the same right now. So let me do that. And right here we have this LG of width 1/3. Let me actually do on large devices a padding Y of how much? 32 pixels. So custom value 32 pixels, and on large devices padding width of 56 pixels. Custom value 56 pixels. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks quite nice in my opinion. I wouldn't also change anything in the FAQ section. I think it looks quite nice. Maybe you could make the question a bit bigger. So what is it right here? 18 pixels. And what do we have? We have also 16 pixels. So what we could do right here is just LG of text custom value 18 pixels. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, I think that's nice. I will leave it like that. I like it very much. So now our FAQ section is almost ready. The only thing I now don't like is the plus icon. Now it's too big, not too small. So what I'll do right here for large devices, for the image component, so on large, width of let's say 6, and on large devices, height also of 6. If I now save it and go back, yeah, this looks quite nice. I like it a lot. And you see, the nice thing, it's completely accessible, as you see right here when I tap on it. So now this works perfectly, just like I wanted. So our FAQ section is now also done. So we have now created the navbar, the hero, we have created our features, we have created the FAQ section. Now the next step is to create the pricing section. And this is thankfully quite simple, since all we do on the mobile is a flex call and on desktop flex row. So let's actually do that. Let me close this now. First of all, let's see how it looks on mobile again, because I didn't check. Yeah, on mobile looks quite nice. I can click on everything as you see right here. So yeah, that's good. So now let's actually continue, as I said, with the pricing section. For that, let me open the app folder. So app folder, components folder, and let's name it pricing.tsx. Inside of here, we start as we always do, export function, and let's say pricing. And then let me open it inside of here. Let me return a div. So let's do div. And then inside of here, h1, hello from the pricing component. If I now save that and go back, you won't see anything. And that's again because we don't render it in the index page. So under the FAQ component, let me render our pricing component. This is imported from our components, and as you see now, this looks quite nice. And now also right here you see hello from the pricing component. So now I think we should actually style it. So now for the pricing section, let me delete this div element actually, and let's create a new div element. Now what's the first thing we need right here? If you check our Figma file, you'll see that the padding Y is 48 pixels. So let's start with that. Let's add a class name of padding Y, which will be 48 pixels. Now inside of here, I will render an H1, and this H1 will be flexible plans for you. I will just copy and paste that. And let's add a class name, and this will just be text with the custom color inside of here. Then what else do we have? We have a text which is center, since you see the title is centered. We have a font size of 24 pixels, so I can add a text of right here 24 pixels. Then what else do we have? We have a font weight of 500, so let's do a font of medium. Then we have a text size of 24 pixels, so let me actually add a text which will be 2XL. I think that's all. Let's see how that looks actually. And yeah, it looks quite nice in my opinion. Now the next step is to add a small description right here, so a little p tag. Let's add a p tag. Let me just copy right here what is said, so no hidden fees. And now let's style that. So we have a padding top of 16 pixels and a padding bottom of 40 pixels. So let's add a class name. So the padding top will be a custom value of 16 pixels. The padding bottom will be a custom value of 40 pixels. Let's also do a text which will be center. And what else do we have? We have a text color. So let me copy that and add it right here in custom value. And what else do we have? Font weight 400, font size 16. So this should be all. If I check it now, yeah, this looks how it should look. Quite nice. Now the next step is to add our pricing cards, and that's exactly what we'll do now. So what do we have? First of all, we'll have a div wrapper, so an element which wraps all three children, so all three pricing cards, and then we have the individual pricing cards. So under this p tag, I will create a new div element. Let me just give it a class name of flex and flex of call. Now for the gap, let's do a gap y of 6, because if you check it right here, you will see that the gap y is 24 pixels. This looks quite nice. Now inside of here, let me create a new div element. Let's do a class name. Let's do a width of full. Let's do a rounded, because if you check, the pricing card right here has a border or a rounding of 8 pixels. So let's do a rounded of custom value 8 pixels. Then we have also a background color. So let me copy it right here. Let's do a BG and let's add it. Then what else do we have? We have a padding of 24 pixels. So let's do a padding of 6. And if you hover over it, it tells you right here that's 24 pixels. Now one more thing I want to do is an add and flex call. Now what else do we need right here? Inside of this div, I want to now render actually another div element. And inside of here, let's get an h3 tag. The subtitle is free trial. So let me copy paste that right here. Then what is it? We have a font weight of 500. So let's add a class name of font medium. And then for the text color, let me just copy that and then add it, text of custom value. And I think that's already all. Font size 18 pixels. So let's actually add that text, and this will be 18 pixels. So if I save that and go back, you see, yeah, this looks quite nice. Now for the subtitle right here, this will just be a normal p tag. So under the h3 tag, let's add a p tag. I will copy the subtitle value, paste that, and then let me style our class name or our p tag. So the padding top is 12 pixels. So let's do padding top of custom value, which will be 12 pixels. Then our text size is 16 pixels. That's the default. And we have a text color. So I will copy that and add it right here. So this looks now nice. Now the next step is to add right here the pricing. So how much it costs. For that, we will just go under this p tag and add an h2 tag. Let's right here just do $0, so $0, and then let's add a span element, and then inside of the span element we'll just do /mo, so for month. If I now save that and go back, yeah, it looks alright, but the sizing is not correct. So what we'll do right now is, first of all, let me delete the spacing. I don't need it. Let me style first of all the h2 tag. So we have some padding on top, which is 18 pixels. So let me add a PT of 4. That's the exact same. So if I hover over it, it tells you 16 pixels. Yeah, that's fine, 16. Then what else do we need? We have text sizing. This is right here, 24 pixels. So let's just do text of 2XL. What else do we have? We have a font weight of 500. So let's do a font of medium. Yeah, that looks nice. And I think this should be already all. The only thing we have to add is a color for the month. This is again a custom value. So for the span, let's add a text with a custom value. Let me paste that, and this should be all. If I now go back, yeah, this looks quite nice in my opinion. So now we have added the pricing, and now the next step, which you see right here, is to add this unordered list. So let's actually do that right now. So for that, we'll go under the h2 tag and add an ul tag. Let me give it a class name, and the class name will be flex of call, and we have a gap y. Let's see, the gap y is of 8 pixels, so let's do gap y of 2. And then let's see, we have a padding top of 16 pixels, so let's do padding top of 4. That's again the same, so padding 4 is 16 pixels. And then what's the text sizing? The text sizing is 16 pixels, so that's the default. Let me just copy the text color also. So let's do a text with the custom color. And now inside of here, we can now render the li tags. So let's get an li tag. Inside of here, I will now copy the lorem ipsum. So I will copy that and paste that. And above this lorem ipsum, let's render a span element with an image component. And this image component will render our check mark. So on top, let me import our check. This will be from ... public assets and check. I can now right here just render it. So let's do a source of check, and let's do an alt of, I don't know, included or something like that. If I now save that and go back, let's see how that looks. yeah, we again have the issue with that it's stacked vertically, not horizontally. So for the li, I can add a class name of flex items, which will be center and gap x of 2. Let me save that. Let's go back. And yes, that looks quite nice. Now let me copy and paste the li 2 more times. And if I save that, yeah, this looks quite nice. Now what's the last thing we need? Well, it's a button actually. So if you check the Figma right here, we now have a trial button. So let's create that. To do that, we'll go under the UL element and under the div right here, and we'll create another button element. So let's do that. And then inside of here, let's just say start trial. If I now save that and go back, yeah, this does not look quite nice. It's not styled. So let's first of all see, we have a margin top of 16 pixels. So let me add right here a class name, which will just have margin top of custom value 16 pixels. Then we have a rounding right here, which is 4 pixels. So let's do it right here, rounded, and the rounded will just be a custom value of 4 pixels. If I now save that and go back, let's see. Yeah, this is okay. Now we have to add a background color. So let's do a BG of white. If I now save that, let's see. Yeah, this looks quite nice. The only thing we have to do is now add a padding Y, which will be 14 pixels. So let's do a padding Y, which will just be 14 pixels. If I now save that and go back, yeah, this looks quite nice. As you see, I like it a lot. Now, the last thing we have to do is add actually a text color in the font. So as you see right here, we have a text color of this indigo color. I will copy that and right here just write text of this custom value and the font, which will be medium. So if I now save that and go back, this should look quite nice. And yeah, I think I actually like it a lot. Now, instead of creating the next two buttons, what I want to do now is make it actually look better on the desktop device. So let's first of all do that. Let me go back, and the first thing you see is we have a padding Y of 48 pixels. But if you check our Figma, you will actually see that on desktop devices, we want a padding Y of 60 pixels. So let's right here just add an LG of padding Y, and this should be 60 pixels. This looks quite nice. Now for the title, let's see how that looks. On a desktop device, it should be 42 pixels. So let's right here just do on larger devices a text of 42 pixels. Let me save that. Let's go back. Yeah, that's bigger. That looks nice. Now the sub paragraph right here should also actually change a bit. So on a larger device, this should be text of 18 pixels. Let's see how that looks. And yeah, this looks quite nice in my opinion. So now what's the next step that we have to add? Well, it's actually quite simple. Right now, it just stretches the whole width, but I don't want to do that. What I will actually do is right here, instead of flex call, what I want to do is on larger devices, a flex, which will be row. And if I now save that, you will actually not see anything, but that's fine. Once we create the other two cards, you will see the effect of that. Now let's actually also style our H3 right here, free trial. Do we have to change anything? So currently on desktop we have a size of 20 pixels. So let me change it right here to LG, and this should be text of XL. This is nice. Now for the P tag, this should be 18 pixels. So what we can do now is right here for the P tag on an LG device, text of 18 pixels. And then for the H2, let's see what we have right here. This should be now 32 pixels. So what I can do right here is an LG of custom value 32 pixels. This should be text, sorry. So text 32 pixels. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's a bit bigger. I like that. That looks quite nice. Now I think this looks actually quite nice and I wouldn't change anything more than it is right now. So now let's create actually the other two cards. And for that, it's actually quite simple. I will just do a bit of copy pasting since I don't want, again, to create a separate component. So I will copy that, paste it, and paste it again. So now you see we have 3 cards, which is quite nice. But what does not look so good? Well, we don't have any gap on the x-axis. So currently we had gap on the y-axis, but now we need gap on the x-axis. And if you check it right here, there's a gap of exactly 24 pixels. So right here for our parent, let's add right here a gap, which will be x of 24 pixels. If I now save that and go back, you see this looks now very nice. Now let's actually style the second card and the third card. So let's start with the second card for now. So for the background, let me see, this should be this indigo color. I will copy that, and instead of using this color, let me add it right here. Then the title should be actually white, as you see. So let's just do in text white right here. So I will save that, and let's see how that looks. So yeah, we have now this indigo color, free trial is blue. Then the subtitle, what should it be? Let me copy this custom color and add it right here. So now if I save it and go back, yeah, that looks quite nice. Then for the dollar sign, this should be right here, text white. And for the month, let's see, is it also white? No, it has this custom color. So right here, let me just change it to the custom color. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's quite nice. Now the last thing we have to do is change the li element also to this custom color. So let me change it right here. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's quite nice. Now, do we have to change the button? Nope, I don't think so. That's actually quite alright. Now right here, instead of having 3 li tags, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's do the same. So right here, I need to do 2 more li tags, and let's save that. Now you see one issue. Right here, the button is on the bottom, but on the left and right card, the button is not at the bottom. How do we change that? Again, thankfully, it's quite simple. So right here where we have our flex call, so padding 6, flex and flex call, all we have to do, thankfully, again, it's quite simple. All we have to do is on larger devices, add and justify between. If I now save it and go back, you see this button automatically plops to the bottom. Let me also do that for the third card. So I will copy this LG. Let's go to the third card. That's right here. And let me add it. So now you see all the buttons are at the bottom, and that's perfect. Also, instead of free trial, this should be an other text. This should be business. So let me copy that. Let's go to our second card. So let's add business. Let's add our sub description right here. Add that. For the pricing, this should be 500 and not 0. So let's add that. And then I think this should be fine. Let's see. Yes. Now, one thing I should also change, right here we have start trial, but it should be get started. So let's right here just change it to get started. Let's save that and let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks perfect. Now let's change also our third card. So this should be again enterprise. So let me copy that. Let's paste it right here. Then this should be perfect for big companies. So copy it and paste it. The pricing will just be custom. So I can delete the span and just paste custom. Let's see how that looks. So yeah, that looks quite nice. How many bullet points? Now we don't have any bullet points anymore. We now have a p tag. So let me delete this whole ul tag. I don't need it anymore. And instead of the ul tag, we will now actually use a p tag. So let me create 2 p tags, the first p tag and the second p tag. For the first p tag, let me just copy this text value right here. Let's paste that. And let's do the same for the second p tag. Let me copy it right here and let me just paste it down below. Now for the class name for the p tag, let's give it a class name of padding top, which will be 4. Let's add a text, which will be 16 pixels. And the text color, let me copy it right here. That's this one right here. And let's just add it right here. Let's also do for the second p tag, let's do padding top of 2. Let's add a text of 16 pixels, and for the text color, this is the same as we used it in this p tag. So let me paste that and let's see how that looks. Yeah, this looks quite nice in my opinion. Now the only thing is, instead of start trial, as you see, this should be right here, contact us. So let's do contact us. Let's see how that looks. And yes, this looks quite nice. So if I now change it again to the mobile screen, let's do that. Yeah, this renders perfectly. And if I change it to the desktop device, it also looks perfectly. So we are now done with the pricing card. And now we have come to the last 2 components, which is first of all the CTA right here, and then our footer at the end. So let's start with our CTA now. Let me close this pricing section. And then inside of the app folder, let's create a new components folder. This will be just called pricing, or not pricing, I'm sorry, but cta.tsx. Let's create a export function. Let's name it CTA and let me open that function. Inside of here, let me just return a div element, let's say h1, and let's say hello from the CTA. Let me save it, and if I now go back, you don't see it anywhere. Why is that? That's again because we don't render it anywhere. So let's go to the page.tsx, our index page, and under the pricing component, let me render our CTA component. So if I now save that and go back, you now see hello from the CTA, which is quite nice. So now that we see that the component works, we can actually delete now this div element since we don't need it, and let's create a new div element actually. Now let's go to Figma, let's see what styles we have. So first of all, you see right here we have a border. So let me click right here on the CTA. We have a border of 16 pixels, so let's start with that actually. Let's give it a class name of wfull rounded, which will be a custom value of 16 pixels. Then right here we have a gradient. And I didn't want to use this image that they provide right here in the Figma. What we'll use is actually something like Tailwind CSS gradient. Then we'll have a website right here, hypercolor, and that's what we'll use to create the gradient. And I will use right here this hypercolor. Let's right here click to bottom right, and then I will click on this Tailwind button. Let me zoom in a bit on this Tailwind button to copy the styles. I can now right here paste them, and now we have just created a gradient as you see. So now we have a gradient. Let's see what else we have. Let's go back to Figma actually. And then the next step which we have is actually padding as you see. So the padding Y right here is 56 pixels and the padding X is 32 pixels. So let's first of all start with the padding Y right here. So I will give it a padding Y of custom value, and this will be 52 pixels, or not 52, 56 pixels. And then we'll give it a padding X, and this will be a custom value of 32 pixels. I can now save it actually, and if I now go back to our website, you now see this beautiful gradient. Now still it isn't perfect, so for example, what content do we have inside of here? We have an h1, so let me just create an h1 inside of this div element right now. Now for the value of the h1, I will just copy it right here, and then let me just paste it. So monitor your website like a pro. Let's see how it looks like. Yeah, it's black, it's not centered, it isn't looking good. So the first thing you see we have to do is to center it. So I will go to the div right here and just write text center. With that we center our text as you see right here. Then you see we should have a white color, and currently it's black. So let me go back. Now let me style the h1, so class name, this will be text white. Then we have a font size right here, and the font size is 32 pixels. So let me right here just do text. This will be a custom value of 32 pixels. Then the font weight was 500, so let's do font medium. And I think this should be all, so let me save it and let's see how that looks. And yeah, that looks quite nice, and it looks the same as in our Figma file. So now let me create the sub description or this paragraph. So under the h1 tag, let me create a p tag. Let me copy the content from here and let me paste it inside of here. Now for the color right here, we use the normal white color. So let me give it a class name right here for the p tag. Class name will be text white. Let's see if we have a padding top. And yes, we have a padding top of 24 pixels. So let me just give it a padding top of 6, because if you hover over it, you will see that padding top 6 corresponds to 24 pixels. So that looks quite nice, and I don't think we need anything else. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks quite nice as you see, and again, the same as in our Figma file. Now the next step is to create a button as you see right here with this contact sales button. So what I'll do is go under the p tag and let me create a new div tag. Now inside of this div tag, I will create a button. So this button right here, try for free. Let me copy the value of the content and let me paste it in the button. So now let's see what we need for the styling. We have a padding Y and a padding X. So let me give it right here a class name. The padding Y will be a custom value of 16 pixels. And the padding X will be a custom value of, let's see, how much was it? 32 pixels. So let's write that. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it does not look that good. Let's give it a BG also, so a background of white. Let's see how that now looks. Yeah, it already looks like a button. Now we also have some rounding as you see, 4 pixels. So let's give it a rounded of custom value 4 pixels. Let's see how it looks. And it should look quite nice. And yeah, it already looks quite nice in my opinion. Now the only thing I would now do is also change the color. Right here they use a pinkish color. I don't quite like this pinkish color. So I think what we'll do is we have a pink 500 right here. So let's just use a text of pink 500. Let's see how that looks. And yeah, I can live with that. I think that looks quite fine. Now, one thing you also should see is that the padding or the margin is currently not correct. So we have a margin top of 40 pixels. So let me add that. I will do that with this div element right here. So let's do a class name of margin top custom value 40 pixels. Then what I will also do right now is you will see that this button and this button are currently aligned vertically. And in desktop, it will be aligned horizontally. So let me give this div element a flex of call, and a W of full. Now, if we check, everything should still look the same, and yes, it looks quite nice still. Also, maybe one thing is currently this button in our website takes the whole width and not just this, I guess, W fit. So what we'll do is give this button a width of fit, and now if you go and check it again, you'll now see that it only takes the width it needs. But now we have the problem that it does not center anymore, so let's center it also. To center it, it's quite simple. Now in a normal flex row, you would just write justify center, but since it's flex column and everything is the opposite way, it's right here, items of center. If you now check it, you now see it's in the center and looking quite nice. Now the next step is to create a second button. So let's create right here the second button, and it says right here, let's check real quick, just contact sales. So let me copy the value, let's paste it inside of here. Now the thing is also, you see we have like an image, an arrow. So let me right here again create a span, and in the span we'll have an image component imported from next image. We now have to give it in source and a alt. Now for the alt I will just say learn more, and for the image we actually have to import the arrow. So on top what I will do is import arrow from let's see dot slash public assets and arrow.png. I can now use it right here, so let me paste our arrow or paste it actually, and now it should actually work. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, it does not look good as always, right? So let's style it, let's change it. So what we see, the first thing is it's currently aligned vertically, not horizontally. So let's align it horizontally. Let's give the button right here class name of flex. Let's do W of full, items, which will be center, justify, which will be center. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks already quite good. Now we also have to change right here the gap. So let's do a gap of x3. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, we now have a gap on the horizontal side. Also, the padding currently does not look good. So let's see how much padding we should give it right here. And you see the padding is 32 pixels. So let me give it right here a margin top of custom value 32 pixels. Let's see how that looks. Right here our website, and yes, you see now the padding looks correct. Still the color does not look good, so this should be right here a text of white and a font of medium. Why medium? That's because our font weight, if you check right here, is 500, and font medium corresponds to font weight 500. Now I think that should be already all, and now you see on mobile it looks quite beautiful. If I now make our screen desktop actually, you now see, yeah, it looks alright, but not that good, because if you check our Figma file, you see it definitely looks better in our Figma file than currently in reality. So let's actually now adapt our CTA to a desktop size. So to get started, the first thing we will do is actually change our padding or our margin, because what you see right here is that we have a total margin of 120 pixels. And currently we gave a pricing section 60 pixels, so we have to give our CTA again 60 pixels. So right here on the top div, I will give it an LG of margin on the y-axis of in total 60 pixels. Then also another thing we have is the x-axis pixels, or the x-axis padding. So right here you see that the padding on the x-axis is 328 pixels. So that's what I want to change right now. So let's right here give it an LG of padding x custom value 324 pixels. Also the padding Y also changed. You see the padding Y is now 89 pixels. So let's change that also. LG of padding Y custom value 89 pixels. Let's now see how it looks like on desktop. And yeah, it looks quite nice since we now gave it a bit more padding and also margin on top and bottom. And now let's actually change the H1 tags since currently they are not sized correctly. Let's see what changes right here. So we see right here that the font size changes to 56 pixels. So let's add it right here. So on LG, let's do text of in total 56 pixels. Also, our line height changes to 64 pixels. So let's do right here leading of custom value and 64 pixels. Let's see how that looks. And yeah, you now see that the text is way bigger and it looks way nicer. Now, what's the next thing which changes? And that's actually the description. You see now the padding top to our title changes to 48 pixels. So right here for the P tag, let's give it an LG of padding top custom value 48 pixels. Also, the text size changes to 18 pixels. So let's do an LG of text custom value of 18 pixels. If you now check it in our Chrome browser, you now see that the description is a bit bigger and it looks nicer. Now, what's the last step? Well, it's actually sorting out the buttons. Currently, they are aligned vertically, so flex column. And if you check the Figma file, they should be aligned flex row. So that's what we have to add right now, or change in that case. So let's do that right now. For this div element which wraps the buttons, or is the parent element in that case, we right here just have to actually do first of all a margin change. So currently our margin is to the top 56 pixels and we have right here 40 pixels. So on large devices, let's do a margin top of a custom value which will be 56 pixels. Then the next step is to make the items actually flex row. So on LG, let's do flex of row. And let's do also LG, which will be justify center. Now, what's exactly the problem right here? Well, both buttons currently take 50% of the width, or actually this button takes almost the whole width, while this button is W of fit. So what we have to change right here is currently nothing for this button, but for the second button, we have to do an LG of W fit. If you now check how it looks on Chrome, you already see it looks way better. But now we have a problem with actually sizing. Right here we have a padding top, and that's why it's currently sized to the bottom. So all I have to do right here is an LG of margin top 0. If I save that and go back, you now see that they are both centered correctly. Now, one problem we have is we don't have a gap right now. This is of course not good. So let's check what the gap is. And you see right here the gap is 40 pixels. So let me add it right here to the div, which is the parent element. Let's do a gap x of custom value, which will be 40 pixels. If I now save that, you see it already looks way better. And you now see that the centering is correct and also the gap is also looking good. So now I think we are done with that. The only thing is right now, I think the button text should be medium. Yes, font weight 500. So let's right here do for both a font medium. So right here, font medium, and also for this button, a font which will be medium. Let's see if that changes anything or anything big. But I now think it looks better. Yeah, it looks quite nice. And now we are officially done with the CTA. You see it works on desktop, and if I make it a mobile screen, you also see the CTA works perfectly. So the CTA is now finally responsive. So now what's the next step? Well, actually the next step is the last step, and that's the footer. Now thankfully the footer is quite simple. I won't actually style the footer as it's shown right here. I think that's a bit too complex to be honest. We will make it a bit more simple. So let's actually try it out. So let me again close everything, we don't need it. Let me right here collapse everything. Let's go in the app folder, components folder, and let's create a footer.tsx. Now how do we start in this file? Well, we start how we always do with an export function. Let's name it footer and let's open the function. Right here let's return something, a div with an h1, and let's say hello from the footer component. If I now save it and go back, what do we see in our Chrome browser? Well, we see nothing. Why is that? That's because again, in our index page, we don't render the footer. So let me change it. Let's render our footer right here. Let me import that from components, self-closing tag, and let's see how it looks like. And yes, we have right here, hello from the footer component. So now let's actually style our footer and actually create a nice looking footer. So how do I start? First of all, let me delete this whole div element. Let's create a new div element. And now what's the first thing you will see actually? So if I go to the Figma file, let's check. We have a padding top of 80 pixels and we have a padding bottom of 40 pixels. Let's add it right here. So for the class name, let's do padding top of in total 80 pixels and a padding bottom, which is in total 40 pixels. Now inside of this div element, what's the next step that we have? Well, right here we have a logo with the name of the site. So let me create another div element right here. Let me give it a class name of flex. I give it a class name of flex since you see they are aligned horizontally, not vertically. Let's also do items, which will be center, and also justify, which will be also center. Then let's also give it a gap x, because if you check right here, we have a gap of x of 12 pixels. So gap x will be a custom value of 12 pixels. Now inside of this div element, I want to render the logo. So let me right here just import the image component from next/image. Right here we have to give it a source and also an alt. For the alt, let's say logo, and for the image we have to import that. So on top I will do import logo from public assets and logo.svg. I can now render it right here and let's see how it actually looks in our website. And now you see right here on the bottom the logo. Now still something is missing, and that's our title or the site name. So let me create a p tag and let's just say Jan Marshall right here. If I now save it and go back, you now see it's centered correctly and everything looks good, but the font size and the color and everything like that does not look good. So let's check the Figma file, and the first thing you will see is that the font weight is now 700. So the font weight is not anymore medium or semi-bold, it's now completely bold. So right here we can actually style it. Let me give it a class name, and the class name will be font of bold. If I now check it right here in our browser, you now see that it looks quite nice. Of course the color is not correct, it should be this custom color. So let me copy the color, let's give it a text of custom color. And then also the text sizing should be 17 pixels. So let's do custom value of 17 pixels. If I now check how it looks like, it should look quite nice. And yes, it looks exactly the same as in our Figma file. Now the next step which I will create are the links, and I won't do it the same as they do it right here. So let's actually create that. Let's create a UL element, an unordered list. Let's give it a class name, which will be flex and flex of column, since they should be stacked vertically. Let's do an items, which will be center. Let's do a gap y, which will be a custom value of 32 pixels. Let me also give it a padding top, because if you check the file right now in Figma, you will see that we have a padding top of 56 pixels. So let's do custom value of 56 pixels. Now what else do we have? We have a text color. So actually let me just copy this text color, this custom text color. So let's do a text of custom value of what I've just copied. Now inside of here, let me create the li elements. So the first one will be features. Then the second element will be pricing. So let me spell that correctly. Then the third element will be just enterprise. And then the last value will just be a careers. So if I now save that, let's see how that actually looks like. And yeah, it looks quite nice. They are stacked vertically and they are also centered in the middle, as you see. Now the next step which I want to add is this copyright 2024. Let me copy the value right here, and then under the unordered list I will create a p tag and let me paste the value. Let's check out how it looks like. Yeah, it's not centered, the font does not look good, and it also does not have any padding. So let's add that. Let's check it out. So the padding top is 56 pixels. So right here for the class name, let's do a class name of padding top custom value 56 pixels. Let's do a text which will be center. Then also a text which will be, let's see how many pixels. It will be 14 pixels. So let's add a custom value of 14 pixels. Let's see how it looks like. You now see it's centered correctly and the font size already looks way better. Now I think also we had a font medium, so let's do a font medium. This now looks even better. We have a custom text color, so let me copy it and let me just add it right here. And now I think it looks nice, and we are now done with the copyright. Now the last step which we have actually, if you check our Figma file, are the social links. So for Twitter, Facebook, and whatever this is. So now let me first of all import the images right here on top. So let's do import Facebook. This will be from // public assets, and this should be Facebook. Then what's the next one? This should be Twitter. So let's do import Twitter from dot dot slash public assets, and this will be x.svg. And then the last one will be import feed from public assets slash feed.svg. We have now imported all three images, so now we can actually also use them. So under the p tag, I will create a new div element, and then let me give it a class name, which will be flex, items, which will be center, justify, which will be center, and then we also have to give it a gap of x, because if you check, we have a gap x of 56 pixels. So let's do a gap x of custom value 56 pixels, and we also have a padding top of 40 pixels. So let's do padding top of custom value 40 pixels. Let's save it and let's see what we see. Right, we don't see anything. That's because we don't render the images. So let's again use the image component right here. For the source right here, let's use Facebook. And for the alt, let's use also Facebook. Now let me copy and paste it 2 more times. Now the second one should be feed and the third one should be Twitter. Now let me also change the alt real quick to feed and to Twitter. Let's save it and let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks beautiful in my opinion, and it now looks very good on mobile. But if I change it to desktop, actually, you see it does not look that good. So let's actually change that right now. So what do we have to change? Well, I like this title. It looks good in my opinion. But what I would actually want to change is this list of our items. They are currently stacked vertically, but what I think we should do is actually stack them horizontally. So right here for our UL, what I will do is on SM devices, so SM or bigger, let's do a flex of row. On SM, let's do a justify of center, and then on SM, a gap x of 5, and also on SM, a padding top of 5. Let's see how that looks. And yes, it already looks way better. And now the next step is right here. Our copyright has now too much padding to the top. So let's change it and tone it down a bit. So right here for our p tag, what I will do is on SM devices, a padding top of 5. If I now save that, you already see it looks way better and I like it a lot. So now our footer works on mobile and on a desktop, and our whole site is now responsive, as you see. So we are now done actually. We have created the navbar, we have created the hero, we have created the feature list, we have created the FAQ, which works perfectly, we have created the pricing section, the CTA and the footer. Let me check it out how it looks on mobile. So let's go to the top. The navbar looks great, the buttons look great, the hero looks great, then we see the feature list, which looks great, the FAQ list looks great, the pricing section looks good, the CTA looks good, and the footer, of course, also looks good. So we are now done actually, and now the last step has come to deploy to Vercel and also to push our code to GitHub. So let's do that right now. So I'm now on github.com/new to create a new repository, and let's name it Next.js 14 UI UX. Then I will make it public and let me click on create repository. Now this takes a second, and now we have right here the steps on how to push our code to GitHub. So let me actually open my terminal, let's stop the dev server, let's clear everything, and let's do a git init to initialize a new Git repository. Then we will do a git add everything with a dot right here, and then we have to do a git commit -m, and let's just say finished website. Then let's click enter, and now the next step right here is to create a branch. So let me copy it, paste it right here. Then the next step is to add a remote origin. Let me copy it and paste it. And the last step is to push it. So let me copy it and paste it. We now push our code from our local environment to GitHub. And if I now go back and reload GitHub, you will now see our code actually, which looks quite nice. Great. So now we can go to Vercel and actually deploy our application. So I am now on vercel.com/new, and right here we can now click on import for our project to import our project. And right here we have now a few settings. So we'll leave the name as default. Our framework is correct. We don't need any environment variables. So what I can now do is click on deploy. This will now take about a minute, 2 or 3 minutes, I'm not sure. But once it's done, I will come back to you guys. Hey, congrats guys, our application is finally deployed. So I can now click on this link and this will now open our deployed application as you see right here. So this is what we now see, and it's exactly the same as in our dev environment, which is great as you see. So now we are done. Our mobile application also works as you see right here. Everything still is interactive. I can click on the FAQ, which is quite nice. So now everything is done. We have created a local environment, we have pushed the code to GitHub, and we have deployed it successfully on Vercel and on its global CDN network. So now I think we're done for today, and I hope you enjoyed this video, you could learn a lot, and I hope I can see you on the next video. So now, bye.